Hello there and welcome to another tutorial. In this video I'll be demonstrating how to model a lightsaber from a reference image in Blender, manipulating basic objects such as a cylinder into a lightsaber from the movie Star Wars. Due to the length of this tutorial, I've split it into two parts. In this first part we will be modeling the lightsaber, and in the second video we will work on lighting, shading, and UV unwrapping our object, and then we will render it and composite it into a final scene. So let's go ahead and get it into Blender and start working. Alright, to get started we need to open up a new file in Blender and delete everything in the scene. Then we need to import our reference image from our file by opening up the right toolbar with the N key, checking background images, hitting add image, hit open, and go find the reference image. Alright, so now that we have the reference image in Blender, we can go into the front view by hitting 1 and then orthographic view by hitting 5. To get the cursor here in the center, we need to hit Shift S and cursor to center. Next, we need to get our lightsaber image centered onto the grid. So the center of the lightsaber here, I want it to be on the x-axis of the grid there. So I can come over here to my background image settings and change the height of that image. If I only wanted to see this from, say, the front view, I can come over here and say, no, I only want to see this from the front. Then whenever I go into the right or the left, I can't really see it. So now that we've got our reference image set up, we can go ahead and start modeling our lightsaber. Now when you first start thinking about how you're going to model something, you want to consider maybe its basic shape, or maybe the basic shape of a particular part or a large part of that object. And for a lightsaber, I'm just going to say it's basically a cylinder, especially this part right here. So I'm going to hit Shift A, Mesh, Cylinder, and then I'm going to rotate it hitting the R key and then hit 90 degrees and enter. Now I can scale the object down and grab it over to here. And now we can go into edit mode by hitting tab, or you can come down here and switch between edit mode and object mode. So go into edit mode, go into wireframe view by hitting Z, grab on the x-axis until we get to about right there. And then we'll come over here and you can see that the lightsaber comes all the way to about right here, and then it has a lip. So we're going to go ahead and hit A to deselect everything, B to box select, and grab all of this stuff, and then hit X to snap it to the x-axis, and grab this over to here. Well, I'm going to disable my grease pencil drawing by hitting the N key again and hiding it. And I want to just make sure that I've got this correct. So it looks like it has a first lip here and then a second one there. So I think I'm just going to grab this, hit X to snap to the x-axis, hit E to extrude, and then scale it till this vertice is about level with this, and then I'll extrude it again, and then I'll extrude it again, right click, scale till this top vertice is level with the top of that lightsaber, and then hit E to extrude again, E, scale it down, extrude it again, extrude it, scale it, extrude it. And this is kind of monotonous, but it's good practice to get used to extruding things and scaling things in Blender. And I mean, a lightsaber, if you think about it, is a relatively basic object. So the next thing we need to do is probably just to extrude this to the other side here, and later we can come back and make these little knobs on the edge. I'm going to extrude it again to the end of the lightsaber, and then to make this portion right here, we need to extrude it, scale it down until this top part right here is about level with I guess the base of that little knob. And then we're going to extrude it and scale it once more. There we go. So now we've finished the end of our lightsaber here, and now we're going to start making these little knobs here. So to do that, we can come over here to face select, go back into the I don't know, I guess this would be solid view, hit the Alt key on the keyboard, and then select this loop of faces here. Now once we have this selected, we can see up here that we have 32 faces selected out of the 418 that are in the lightsaber. So if I have 32 faces selected, and I don't really know how many knobs are on this lightsaber, but I'm just going to say that 8 is a good number because we can divide 32 by 8. So if we have 8 knobs and we have 32 faces selected, that's 4 faces per knob. So what I'm going to do is go into the top view by hitting the 7, and then I'm going to select 4 faces, and I'm going to skip 4 faces, select 4 more, skip 4 more faces, and select this one. And then what I can do is hold the Shift key and then the Control key and right click over here. Skip 4 faces, hold the Shift key, and then right click up there. And it looks like I added one too many. Okay, so now that we have all of these selected, we can go ahead and well, we can't extrude them just yet because we need to select the other ones also. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit the I key to inset the faces, and you can see there's going to be a little slider down here that has a changing value when I hit the I key, and it says thickness down there. So we want to remember what that thickness is. I think that 0.05, if you just type that into your on your keypad, it'll set the thickness to 0.05, and it may be different for you. But what we need to do is we just need to remember the thickness, hit enter, and then we need to select the other sets of 4 faces. So I hit Shift right click and then hold Shift and Control, right click this one, Shift Control, Shift right select this one, hit Control, and now we have all of these selected, and we can do the same thing that we did for the others. We need to hit the I key, type in 0.05 on our keypad, and enter. Now what we need to do is we need to select the other ones that we had just used the inset tool on. So I'm going to right select this, Shift Control, Shift right click, Control, Shift right click, Shift Control, Shift right click, Shift Control, until we have all of these selected. Now that we have all of these selected, we can extrude it, and you can see it's extruding it outward, and then we can hit right click so that it will snap back to where it was, and then we can hit scale. And whenever we're scaling something, it's going to scale from this little widget here, and you can make sure you have that widget turned on by enabling this feature down here. So if we hit scale, it's going to scale from this point. You can see the little dotted line. Now whenever we scale it, it's going to scale them all outward. So if we want the little knobs to be, I don't know, say this big, and we can see by going into front view that's about how tall they are. So we scale them from there. Now this is obviously not what we want them to look like. So what we want to do is we want to scale each one of these individually. But if we hit scale, you can see it doesn't do it individually, it scales the entire selection. But what we can do is we can come down here to this little menu bar and change the pivot point to be individual origins. And I believe the shortcut for that is Control period. Now that we have the pivot point set to individual origins, we can hit the scale button, or S, and scale each one individually. That looks good to me, so I will just hit the left key to snap it like that, and it looks like that's pretty good. There's probably one more thing that I want to do to each of these little knobs. They have really sharp edges, and you'll notice it's just very sharp here. So first what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to the left toolbar and enable smooth shading, and then that doesn't look very good and it didn't fix it, so we're going to come over here to the I believe that's the mesh data tab, enable auto smoothing, and leave it at 30 degrees. 45 degrees might work too. No, I think I'll leave it at 30. And you can see that looks a lot better, but there's still some kind of sharp edges here. And one way to fix sharp edges is to add a bevel modifier to your object, and we may do that later, but I think for now we can leave it how it is. I mean, this is just a basic model, and we can leave it how it is for now, and then maybe whenever we're done modeling the lightsaber hilt, we can come back for that. So let's go back into front view mode, and let's start making this section right here, just with the little wave kind of grip part of the lightsaber. So let's go into edit mode by hitting tab, select the vertically select mode, hit alt to select this edge loop, hit extrude, right click, scale, extrude, oops, okay, so extrude that, scale it up. I'm going to change this back to median point, see if that fixes my problem. I'm having a hard time here. Alright, there we go. Extrude to about there, and then extrude this, right click, scale it down, and if you need to, go into wireframe view, hitting Z, and scale it down until it's about level with that black portion there. Then extrude it, then extrude it again, right click, scale it, and here you'll notice that it's kind of rounded right here, but we're going to go ahead and just extrude it over that anyway and come back to fix that later. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Let's do that maybe one more time. Extrude that, right click, scale it down, extrude it, and there we go. So now that we've done this once, we probably don't want to do this, I don't know, it looks like 10 more times. So let's not do that 10 more times. Let's just duplicate this by hitting Shift D, right click, grab it on the X, so that'd be GX, until we get to about there where it's flush with the last set of vertices that we extruded, and it's directly over the next little valley and hill. So then we can hit the left click to set it there, and we can hit we can go back into front view and hit Shift D again, X, until it's about flush right there, and then we can hit Shift R, and that'll just repeat the last action that we did. Okay, so that worked pretty well, but there's a problem. We have all of these little gaps in between our mesh now that we need to go fix. Now, I think that this way was more efficient, but this is one problem with doing it the way we just did it. So what we can do is to go into face select mode, hit alt select each loop of faces that are in these little valleys here. Well, probably not the first one, that one's fine. So we can select all of these, probably not that last one, delete them, and then it looks like there are faces here as well, so we're gonna go ahead and select these faces that are in here, hit X to delete those faces, and now you can see that it's just kind of open. So what we can do is then go back into vertice select mode, hit alt and select this edge loop, and alt and select that one, and hit W. Well, first off, before we do that, we need to go into user preferences to enable some mesh loop tools. So we go to File, User Preferences, and in User Preferences we can go to the search bar and type in mesh. You know what, let's type in loop, and we have loop tools. Now make sure this box is checked, and then hit Save User Settings and go back to the 3D view. So we have these two edge loops selected, hit W, Loop Tools, Bridge. And then we're just going to do this for each one of the little valleys in our grip. Oops. W, Loop Tools, Bridge. And then we'll just do this for each one. This is why this is a good beginner tutorial, because we just do the same things over and over, and it just gets us kind of comfortable using Blender and just getting the basic shapes and just understanding how topology works a little bit better. And because a lightsaber is a relatively basic object, this is a good way to start. So now that we've done that whole thing, what we can do is we want to go back in here and make these valleys and mountains more smooth. Probably just the little mountain type things. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to go to Edge Select and select, using Alt, we're going to select each of these edge loops and then hit Shift Alt and select each one of these. And make sure you have Shift Alt to select multiple edge loops. So once we have all these selected, what we're going to do is hit Control B, and that's going to bevel each edge loop, giving us a more smooth surface. Now, that's not perfect, but it looks a lot better. And later, maybe whenever or if we add a bevel modifier, we can go back in and it'll make it more smooth. So now that we've gotten that finished, let's go on to the next part of the lightsaber. Let's go into edit mode, maybe vertice select mode, wireframe, and we probably want to select this part here using B and box select, then hit Control plus. That's going to, add the next set of loop, the next loop, I guess. Now that we have that selected, we can hit Scale and then hit Shift X. And that'll scale it on every axis except the x-axis. There we go. Now we want to select this one, hitting Alt, grab it on the X until we get to about there, extrude it, scale it up, extrude it again, scale it up, and just keep doing this until you get the basic form of the lightsaber. And you've gotten up to that very tip up there. So extrude, scale it, extrude it, scale it up, extrude it again, scale it up, extrude, scale it. And here I'm going to add just another set of another loop there. Alright, so now that I've gotten to the very end of the lightsaber, I'm going to hit the I key to inset this face to about there. Then I'm going to hit E to extrude it until I get to about there. And I'm going to hit the I key again until it gets to about the size that I want my lightsaber to be. And I don't know, that looks good to me. So I'm going to go into wireframe view and extrude it back to probably about there. And then I'm going to do one more. I'm going to hit I to inset it and then E to extrude it backward. And if we enter wireframe view, you can see it goes all the way back here. So I'm going to grab it back a little bit more. Okay, now we've modeled the hilt of our lightsaber, I guess the handle you should say, and that's basically it. Congratulations, you just modeled a lightsaber. But there's one more thing we can do. Let's go over to the modifiers tab, hit add modifier, and we're gonna see if a bevel modifier makes it look better. Now, I think the way to do this is you can hit the angle button and specify the angle at which an edge should be beveled. So we don't want everything to be beveled, so you can see that it's kind of trying to bevel each little individual face there, but we can just set an angle limitation and that will fix it just fine. Now some of these things are perhaps a little bit too smooth, So we can do probably one of a couple of things. We can hit 2 segments, which will make it less smooth in some areas, like right here. You can just see it adds another layer of, I guess, bevel. And then I don't think you can change the profile, but it just looks like that's making it more sharp. I honestly don't use the bevel modifier a whole lot, so I can't tell you exactly what everything does, but I think for now that looks good. We can change the width here and get it to how we want. And that looks good to me. May increase it just a little bit. And there we go. If we zoom out, you can see that it looks a lot better, and we don't have as many sharp edges on our model, which is important because if you think about it, there's nothing in the real world that has a perfectly sharp edge. Everything has some degree of, I don't know, I guess everything is just a little bit smooth, dull, something. And I just turned the segments down to 1. I didn't quite like it the other way, and I may just decrease the width also. And there we go. Alright, so now that we've finished our lightsaber, we can move on to the UV unwrapping, lighting, and shading. In the next video, we will work on the shading of the lightsaber in Cycle's render engine. We will also render the scene and composite it in Blender. If you have any questions about this video or others, please leave those in the comments below. And if you liked this video or found it helpful, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.